Welcome to the BumbleKast. I'm your host, Ian Flynn, the Bumble King, and joining me as always is my Bumble co-host, Kyle, JCRB Krause.
We're here. It's time for a BumbleKast. Time for a BumbleKast. It's always time for a BumbleKast around here.
Pretty much.
Sonic Frontiers is out, so why are you here listening to this? What are you doing?
Maybe they're taking a break. They're too awed by the experience. They need a breather.
Okay. Just keep telling yourself that.
I think I will.
Okay, good.
Questions today come from our patrons over at patreon.com/BumbleKast, Ko-fi.com/BumbleKast, and our YouTube members.
All right, let's jump into this one here, starting with Jube. There has been a recent pushback towards meta/self-referential comedy in media that tends to diffuse the tension of any given scene or overall tone of a story. Think that one narrated Forspoken trailer or any kind of Whedon-esque joke in a major blockbuster film, i.e., well, that just happened. I personally believe that a Joker situation didn't have to tell you the joke or why it's funny. I do, however, think there is a place for it, such as with Sonic Boom or even in the Marvel movies, where a situation may be so absurd or cliche, it may demand a degree of self-awareness to have the audience more on board. But this often comes at the expense of the sincerity and consequences of the story. My question is, where do you think the line should be drawn with meta-humor, especially when it comes in an earnest story?
Like any narrative tool, it needs to be applied properly and with any kind of humor, depending on your project, sparingly. In a serious narrative, having a joke put in to cathartically release the tension can be very effective. Like, I'm thinking specifically in Avengers, just because you kind of brought up Whedonisms, when Loki has stabbed Coulson, and Coulson manages to fire off the cannon and blast Loki through a wall, and as he's lying there dying, goes, "So that's what it does." That works for me because you're in the moment of pining for Coulson, and he has that one last moment of comeuppance. You want him to have that victory, so that joke is a moment for you to cheer for him. And
also that's just kind of his character. It makes sense with who he is.
Yeah. And it's not completely without context because he says it kind of breathlessly. He is dying. It's kind of a last quip on the way out. For me, that whole moment works well enough.
Yeah.
This is ignoring that I called Coulson dying from the beginning of the movie because it's a Whedon movie and he was the only non-standardized Marvel character. It's like, well, Whedon's going to kill him for shock value, but that's a whole other discussion to be had. The moment itself, I felt worked all right. But there are other moments where it doesn't need to diffuse the situation. If you use it too regularly, it robs any of the overall tension that you have, and it becomes predictable. It's like, okay, here's where they're going to drop the joke, or I don't feel like getting super invested because I know there's going to be a gag in there somewhere. Like, can you imagine if they stopped for a quip in the Thanos fight?
Be kind of funny.
Was it like, sure, it's kind of funny when Thor says, "I knew it," once Cap picks up the hammer, but that is again built into a moment that's already been established in the films, and you're cheering with him. You're like, yes, I agree. I want to be in on this joke. Huzzah. Go get him, Thundercap.
Yeah, pretty much.
But if it had been something else, more quippy, more absolute a joke, I just shudder to think about it. It's kind of like one that never landed for me in Rogue One when Vader is choking the life out of the subordinate. And he turns around and says, "Be careful not to choke on your aspirations." It's like, like
it's funny
Vader
because it's just so bad and it doesn't fit.
Like, Vader has had kind of quippy lines when torturing people, but it walks that fine line of, that he's just mocking you. He's twisting the knife. That was a dad joke. That's not even just like, I'm taunting my prey. That was, I'm making a ha-ha. And
well, if it was a dad joke, you should have loved it because you're like, that's your whole thing, man. Between all the puns and
It
makes
is my
sense.
look. It's a curse. Okay, I acknowledge it. It doesn't mean I have to love it. Plus, the hallway scene makes up for every bad joke ever in the history of Star Wars. God, that hallway scene. But again, getting off topic.
Yes.
I feel like if you're going for a just straight up dramatic piece, you still need to have moments of levity. You need to have those peaks and valleys so that it's not exhausting, unless that's what you're going for. Like if you want a dramatic story to just absolutely exhaust the reader or watcher, that's a whole different construction. But if we're talking like your kind of general narrative with an overarching self-serious tone,
Mm-hmm.
you do need your levity here and there, but those punctuated jokes, you got to be very careful with them. If they don't land just right, you're going to undercut everything.
I agree. Here's a question from Kumo with Induction Pan. I recently finished a Sonic Universe binge and it got me wondering, can we expect to get any spin-off comics focusing on support/side characters in this continuity? Kind of like the Tangle and Whisper miniseries we got back in 2019. I'd personally love to see Omega blow up robots for 10 issues straight, or catch up with Blaze and Marine as they fend off threats to the Soul Emeralds.
It's certainly possible. Kind of depends on who is pitching what and when. What Sega might particularly want at any given time. What the editors at IDW want to focus on. So it's not impossible. It's certainly on the table. If there's something you in particular want to see, write into IDW. Go to the letters page and say, I really want to see Omega destroy things for a solid year. Why 10 issues? Go for the full 12, man. Imagine that 12-part triptych cover of just Omega tearing through stuff. Yeah, go for it. Pitch it. See if they pick it up. See if, hey, look, we've got a whole bunch of fan mail asking for Omega to eviscerate things. Let's get somebody to do that.
Let Omega have a little bit of murder as a treat. Sure to be mostly robot murder, but still. Here's a question from Miles the Prower. As we all know, Worlds Collide is one of the best crossovers, but we sadly couldn't see an interaction between the Blue Bombers and the Blue Blur's evil green twins. So, basically, what I'm getting at is, how do you think an interaction between Quint and Scourge would go?
A little hard to say because I never got the chance to really get into Quint's head. I didn't get to write him too much, but he is fueled by a lot of anger and a lot of very personal resentment to Mega Man. So there's some parallels there.
Yeah.
But I feel like where Scourge is just entirely self-serving jerk, Quint has a degree of tragedy to him. Well, I mean, you could argue Scourge is a different kind of tragedy. He is the hero in his own mind because he kind of is.
Mm-hmm.
So I could see them working together to a degree in their mutual disgust at the protagonists, but I see it falling apart pretty quickly as well, just because Scourge is such a schizoid.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Quint still has that underpinning of honor to him, maybe. I don't know. I would really want to go back and research and figure that out, because that could have been a really fun pairing. Absolutely.
Yeah, there's definitely some possibilities there. Well, maybe that third crossover will happen. Here's a question from Noni. What's the better 80s cartoon rock ballad? The Touch by Stan Bush from the Transformers movie, or Run With Us from the Raccoons, but specifically the cover done by Lisa Loewe as the single to her debut album Evergreen Nights?
Run With Us. No contest.
Really?
Easy.
Really?
Any day of the week.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
I have to agree with myself and disagree with you. I would have to agree with myself in that, come on. You're going to say that The Touch does not approach Run With Us? Are you seriously? Are you seriously making that argument? Like, what?
Run With Us is something I will gladly listen to on loop, get me pumped, get me feeling all good and energized. The Touch, I have a hard time sitting through once.
Are you... What?
I don't like it.
Here's the thing. Dare is better, yes, but dude, it's the touch. It's the song. It's the 80s cartoon rock ballad. I mean,
I know. And somewhere, David Oxford of Nightworks is seething. He's probably going to hunt me down. I have blasphemed in his eyes.
I think he knows where you've lived, so you probably should watch your back. I mean, how dare you disparage the greatness of Stan Bush? Please. Listen, Run With Us is a fantastic song. Will not deny it. Will not deny it. But come on. The touch. Like, come on. It's the touch. It's literally, you got the touch, man. You got the power. Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't jive with me. Not my jam.
Man,
you're committed to this show.
Here's one from Omega Man 21. Hi, diddly ho, Ian and Kylerino. So, this has been on my mind a bit, and I'm curious as to know what an FMA would think. Which of each Deadly Six member most closely resembles each of Father's homunculi? What is this question, Ian? Explain this to me. So, FMA, is that like Full Metal Alchemist?
Yeah, Full Metal Alchemist.
Are they calling you a Full Metal Alchemist? Is that the thing here?
I think he's missing a key word, a Full Metal Alchemist fan.
Fan, okay.
And not to be too spoilery, but the central antagonist to the entire thing is a character named Father, and he, without getting too much detail, employs a number of homunculi, humanoid individuals that are themed around the 7 deadly sins.
Okay.
Some of them more monstrous than others.
Okay.
Correction. Some of them more overtly monstrous than others. If you know what you talk about, you know Salem's pretty darn monstrous in his own way. But, oops, I guess that's a bit of a spoiler if you... whatever. It's been out for forever. You should know it by now. Anyway.
I know nothing.
The obvious one off the top of the bat is Zamam and Gluttony.
Well, I mean, yeah. I'm actually kind of surprised that Deadly Six are not based on the 7 deadly sins more so.
You can kind of find some parallels, but it falls apart with too much scrutiny.
Yeah.
And there's only 6, so you can't really roll 7. Zor, I would argue maybe Envy, in that deep down he's just a miserable little worm that enjoys agony. It's not the best comparison, I'll admit, but I don't want to say he's Pride just based on the whole Shadow Monsters thing, because he's nothing like Pride character-wise, you know? Mm-hmm. It's tenuous either way. Even more of a stretch, maybe Xena and Sloth, just because they don't really want to get their hands dirty. They don't want to act, but when they do, they are formidable.
Wouldn't Zor be more Sloth, though? And
he's not...
Xena's more like, I don't know, maybe greed or lust?
Well, no, because she doesn't act like either of them, and greed is one of the most prominent characters in the story arc. He is a very defined
okay. This is specifically for Full Metal Alchemist. I'm thinking just like
when I say the sins, I mean the characters that they're based on, or named directly after. So greed in Full Metal Alchemist is a super defined character, both personalities. It's God, he's got so much character and charisma. The other 6 of the Deadly Six don't even add up. And to that end, there is no parallel to greed amongst the Deadly Six, just straight up. And beyond that, like, Zeke doesn't really parallel to anybody. If anything, he's more like Master Fu, and now we're just drawing parallels between any character willy-nilly. Like Zaz, nobody. He's too overtly vicious and like crazy. I mean, you could say, sure, Wrath is out there kicking all sorts of butt, but he's so much more measured and meticulous and terrifying. I mean, my God, the assault on the Capitol when he comes back, you know what I'm talking about. After the train, if you've read this, you know what I'm talking about.
I know nothing.
You remembered them. I know I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the people who have actually enjoyed this.
Oh,
like after the train, after the assault on the Capitol, you think things are finally turning the corner, and then here he comes, and you're like, oh no. That was like, Aaliyah and I were watching it, and like in unison, we shouted at the screen, "Oh shit!" It was. You've got to at least watch it, man. It's such a good. Anyway,
I mean, that was me watching Shin Godzilla.
That I need to watch. So
do that.
I guess we're even there.
Please do that.
Finally, maybe you could say Zavok and King Bradley, in that they're both the kind of sort of affable until you cross them, and then they go beast mode. But when Zavok goes beast mode, it's like literal beast mode, like grr, snarl, dragon, monster. When King Bradley goes beast mode, it is surgeon precise. He's infinitely more terrifying than Zavok has ever been.
Zavok is not scary.
I don't know.
Honestly, like he's not really very scary at all.
I mean, the drawing parallels between the Deadly Six and the Seven Deadly Sins is already kind of a exercise in futility. Drawing parallels with the sins out of Full Metal Alchemist it just don't work.
Well, that's a shame. Here's one from Professor Scruffy Matt. In a confrontation with Rough and Tumble in Echo Mine, Sonic the Hedgehog became one of the first victims of the metal virus. But how would things have played out differently had it been Amy Rose that was infected instead of Sonic? How badly crippled would the restoration have been without its leader? Would Tails have been able to think of an antidote without the knowledge that Sonic's speed could burn off the virus? How differently would Sonic's fights against Zombots have been with him unable to physically touch them?
This is a fascinating scenario, and I just can't think logically how Sonic would get out of Echo Mine without getting infected. Because if Amy were infected and they don't know the transference method, wouldn't he just pick her up and carry her to safety and thus be infected himself, and then things would proceed from there? Or would they figure it out after she got infected in the same way that he started to immediately show signs? So like she climbs on a minecart and he wheels her to safety, except she's going to turn because she doesn't have the super speed. So that would be, man, so many heartbreaking moments, and we missed out on that one. Metal Virus 2, Metal Boogaloo, anybody? You want back on this ride?
I don't think anybody wants that again.
No, they do not.
No, most people, all right, you guys in the chat right now who want that, you're incorrect.
You're wrong.
You're wrong. You do not want this.
Thank you, but you're wrong.
You do not want this.
I think the thing is, I think Sonic would eventually have to get infected, because that was part of the terror of the arc, is that his conventional means of saving folks, hitting them with his face, doesn't work. He hits a Zombot, he risks infecting himself more. So the very means of him fighting is out the window.
I do think I'm chuckling now because I'm imagining that how Sonic saves people is by hitting them with his face. Literally, because that's what you said. I know that's not what you meant. Okay, but
syntax.
So Sonic,
yes.
So I'm just going around imagining Sonic saving people by headbutting them.
Sonic saving, sure thing. Whap.
Not spin dash, headbutting, literal headbutting. Yep.
So ultimately, I feel like Sonic would get infected fairly early on. He would figure out the running thing. That much would stay pretty much on course.
Yeah.
But without Amy, and having Sonic, not save her from the very get-go, would probably weigh on his head and his heart a bit. But with nobody to run the restoration, things would probably fall apart worldwide faster. We'd have less of a concentrated effort to control things early on and more kind of pockets of desperation. But ultimately, I feel like it would have gone largely the same, because the restoration fell halfway through. There was only so much Amy could do. So maybe in the end, we wouldn't even have the refugee shuttle going to Angel Island. It might have been more desperate than that. Hard to say. It is a certainly fun what if prompt. So fanfic writers, go wild.
It would be fun to have sort of a Sonic what if story. If he could do like some sort of, I don't know, mini series exploring that or something.
Oh,
doing, like,
God,
alternate
dude.
universes stories would be fun. That would be a lot of fun.
The number of arcs you could get out of Shadow's game alone.
Well, I mean, the game is nothing but a bunch of what ifs. Here's a question from Sky. What's the deepest, most thought-provoking question you guys have ever been asked? It doesn't have to be from a BumbleKast Q&A. I don't know. I think it's this one either. Because I'm completely my mind has apparently gone completely blank trying to think of answers to this. I cannot think of any.
I mean, there's been some fun what if prompts and scenarios. Even the Quint and Scourge question we just did a bit ago, it prompts me to think, how would I approach Quint? There's the obvious easy route, but I don't want to do that. Get into his head. There's not a ton of material to mine from, but when has that ever stopped me?
No.
I could obsess over any little nugget of trivia. So I don't know. We've got a few. I don't know if there's been anything like profound that have kept me up at night, but we've had a number of them.
Yeah. Somewhere in there. Go check the Q&A master list. See if you find any that are thought-provoking for you.
And then outside of the Q&A,
can you think of any?
I don't feel like anyone's ever challenged me that way.
no one's come up to you at any conventions and really laid one out on you?
No, like 99% of folks who I've met at shows are either casual fans who are just happy to get a book signed, or incredibly, giddy fans are like, "Oh my God, you're Ian Flynn!" It's like, please don't. I'm not worth getting that excited over. And just chill and just happy to be there, and I'm happy that they're happy to be there, and that's fun. There have been a handful over the years that are more question driven, but even still, they're polite for the most part and direct, and it's more or less kind of like an episode of the BumbleKast. They trot out their questions and I give an answer, and if they're not satisfied with it, then they
don't tell you.
Polite enough not to make a big deal of it in public, I guess.
Yeah. All right, we got one last question here before we take a break, and it's from Scurvy Pirate Hog. We know Surge hates Sonic, but it was Starline who made her hate him, and we know Surge hates Starline a lot. So, just for hilarity's sake, what if Surge then decides to do the exact opposite and date Sonic instead? Just for the sole reason to spite Starline and his plan. I don't know. Well, at least one person out there has this pairing.
I mean, I can just imagine the dinner scene, and she's resisting the urge just to not take that fork and stab Sonic in the eye, because it's better to watch Starline squirm. She's going to see this bit through to the end. They go for a long romantic run along the beach, and she can't help but think of how much she just wants to throw him into the surf and watch him drown. But she also knows that Starline is like driving alongside the coast with binoculars, seething, and you know what? She's going to maintain it. She's going to keep pace. Hope that he runs off the road somewhere. No, she's going to do this. She's going to see this through. This is for her.
That's right. I mean, Kit's just completely lost and doesn't know what's going on. Like, I don't get it.
Kit's just in a bubble somewhere floating. Complete sensory deprivation, so he doesn't have to think or observe or acknowledge.
Oh, I was thinking he was just following them around in a bubble, like in the new Super Mario Brothers games when you die and you just float around as a bubble. Just float as a bubble all along. He's the third wheel in a bubble.
Oh boy. See, the thing is, Sonic is in on the joke the whole time.
Oh, he knows,
He is having a
obviously.
blast.
I know, he's loving it.
He's being as obnoxiously amorous as possible.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Definitely. Oh, it's a shame the Platypus Man is dead. Oh, well. Well, while we try to figure out how to revive Starline, we're going to go ahead and get into a quick break and be back in a bit with more BumbleKast.
We've got a sponsored ad from our good friend Daniel H. He says, I'd like you to meet Janie. She's a skilled musician, creator of the funny webcomic Fletcher Apartments, a loving wife, and just a cool cat you'd like to know. She could use some help. Janie's raising funds to help cover her gender-affirming surgery, and she's saving every last cent she can, but between the bills and the rent, it's not enough. Click the GoFundMe link to learn more. And spread the word, if you please. Thank you, and be well. We do have the link in the description below, so please give it a click and help Janie out if you can.
We're back, and we got a question from Smiley42116. Since Surge and Kit are cyborgs with a bit of the metal virus in them to heal their injuries, does it also heal against sickness, disease, hunger, anything a normal person may suffer naturally, making them immune to all those? Or does it only heal injuries?
To me, it's only in heal injury scenario. Like, it's not going to generate energy for them if they go hungry. It'll kind of maintain homeostasis if they drown, and then you shake the water out of them and they reboot. But
okay,
it's more of they survive any kind of concussive or battle injury, they're going to bounce right back.
I see. Here's a question from SonicBot. This has been on the back of my mind for a bit, so I'd like to get your interpretation on it. The Wisp life cycle.
Ooh, well, this, let me preface, is 100% headcanon. Zero foundation in anything canonical. But I imagine they kind of manifest off of Mother Wisp. That they just kind of blink into being. Because if they themselves are kind of energy-based life forms, she's got to be like a floating reactor.
Mm-hmm.
So any like particles that come off of her just kind of manifest into wisps. And as we mentioned in a previous episode, I imagine they cycle between their regular and their negaforms kind of naturally, like electrons moving at different intervals within the cloud. They have a positive spin, they have a negative spin, they cycle back around. This can take any amount of time due to various environmental factors. And then after a while, they just kind of fizzle out. Nothing painful or sad or terrifying. They just kind of go to sleep and go away. And then there are more generated off of Mother Wisp.
All right. Well, I guess that makes enough sense. I mean, sure. Why not? Sega, hire this man. Oh, wait. Here's a question from Sonic Padge. Okay, before I ask any more questions, I need to know, what is the line between a hypothetical and a fan idea? Is it detail? Like if I ask, how would Sonic and Friends handle being thrown into the Warhammer 40k universe? Would that be a hypothetical? But if I ask, what if a takeover from the Empire of Man, Dr. Robotnik is inducted into the Imperium and rises through the ranks as an Adaptus Mechanicus, can he take over from the inside with only a remote cloaked metal Sonic, and the giant alligator from Lost Jungle causes havoc as a wild card? Is that enough of a plot line to be a fan idea? P.S. I actually don't know that much about Warhammer 40k, but the art does look very cool.
Actually, that is a fantastic example, because the hypothetical you gave is just that. It's a hypothetical. It's extremely open-ended. It's two core ideas, what if, and that's fine, because there's a lot of room to go with that. The most obvious direction is to have Omega team up with the orcs so they can provide much more DACA for the boys, but that's besides the point.
Exactly.
The other scenario you gave is a plot line. Like, that is a story. It's open-ended, but it is still a story, and that goes too far. Kind of a rule of thumb, if your question is about a sentence long, you're probably safe. If it's a paragraph long, no. That's absolutely probably going to be a pitch for a fanfic, and I can't touch it.
Yeah. So keep your questions short, folks. Here's one from Sonic. Ian, in my opinion, the quote from Tikal about chaos that people use to scale him in Sonic to Planet Buster is taken out of context. The quote in question was, he'll eventually destroy the world like he did before. This is out of context because, one, the quote implies chaos can't destroy the world, in one, since they used the word eventually, means the process is gradual. And two, the quote implies chaos had already destroyed the world before he was sealed, which can't be the case since the planets are still there. Remains of the Echidna City still exist, and we see the land around the Master Emerald Altar isn't destroyed or even flooded when Tikal seals chaos away. So clearly chaos didn't destroy the whole world, not even the whole surface, considering there are still remains of the Echidna City.
Yes, but I think you and others, and possibly myself in the past, are being too literal with the idea of destroying the world. The Knuckles tribe's world was destroyed. The world as they knew it, the world that they experienced, was destroyed. Their civilization was destroyed. Their city was destroyed. Their way of life was destroyed. The world as they knew it was gone.
Yes.
And had perfect chaos gone on to flood the entire planet, there could still be trees. There could still be life that survived. There could have been survivors of this great angry kaiju flood, but that's still global destruction. Things being destroyed and wiped away, that is world destruction. It doesn't mean the world itself, the tangible physical planet, was smashed to smithereens. That's a different kind of destroyed. There's different degrees of destruction, but they still count as destroyed.
It's like how eventually we as humans are on the path to destroy the world. It's not actually going to destroy the world. The world itself will ultimately be fine. It's just everybody on it will be gone. So there you go. Our world will be gone. Yeah, that's fun to think about, isn't it? Let's not do that.
Thanks, Kyle.
Here's a question from Steph Cube. Do you get the impression that some adult Sonic fans may be expecting too much from a franchise whose main focus is children? I know that children are not stupid. They understand deep things, but when I was a child, at least, I was more interested in fun and action than drama.
Thank you for the loaded hand grenade. I will treasure this dearly. I think this is definitely a problem that extends beyond the Sonic franchise.
It's just probably a lot of fans of things in general, but
like, I enjoy a lot of media that is intended for demographics well below my age range.
Yes, as do I.
I appreciate them for what they are.
Mm-hmm.
I can critique them as someone who has years of experience with, analyzing this material and seeing other media and being able to compare. I can say, ooh, I think it would have been more structurally sound to have done this with the narrative, and da-di-da-di-da. Completely oblivious of whatever trials and tribulations went on during the production process. It's fun to armchair analyze without having to worry about anything on your end.
Yeah.
But it also comes with the caveat of it's not meant for me. You serve up something to somebody else and the spectator says, ew, I don't like that. Well, fine. It's not meant for you. Keep walking there, weirdo.
Mm-hmm.
So I see this explanation or this criteria used as a deflection of criticism, which I don't think is fair. I mean, if something is solid, it's solid, regardless of who you're presenting it to.
Right.
But at the same time, it's being geared and presented for a particular audience in mind. And if you can share in that joy too, great. If it doesn't quite match your particular set of desires, then step back and say, okay, why? Is it because it's not meeting my criteria personally? Or is it because it is a failure of the product itself? And that's very hard to do. That's a higher level of critical thinking. So I don't want to throw aspects of the fandom completely under the bus. I do want to give everyone the benefit of the doubt where I can.
Right. All right, here's a question from Superior Pizza. A serious question from the pizza man, being me. In terms of size and scale of the game Sonic cosmology, is it only a 4-dimensional cosmology?
Maybe. I can't think of anything 5th dimensional or higher that we've seen,
Nope.
at least in the main series.
No fifth dimensional imps here.
Unless you want to count Imaginary World somehow as beyond fourth dimensional, but I don't know.
I have no idea. What I do know is we have this question here from Wheels282 Hedgehog. We all know the events of Sonic 06 and everything within that storyline has been erased and now ceases to exist. However, I don't recall Shadow being sealed away by humanity's fear of his power actually being part of a plot derived by Mephiles, or anything that would have been changed by the events of the game one way or the other. To be fair, with his personality and motivation as it is now, there is definitely more reason for them to do so, and I can't recall anything that would have changed that future from coming along that would have been erased. So while it is obvious they will not get to that point in the games again, would Shadow's eventual future still be to be sealed away by humanity?
I would have to go back and review 06 again, but I want to say that part of it was tied to the destruction that came from Iblis, that Shadow was made the scapegoat for the flames of disaster spreading. How does that make sense? I don't know. Maybe I'm misremembering, but I feel like that was part of the impetus, is that he was powerful enough and these disastrous things were happening that people said, you know what, it's probably that guy. And so they had Omega take him out. And without the flames of disaster being an issue, then no, there wouldn't be a particular reason to hunt Shadow down.
We got a question here from Windstar Osprey. I think the reason Sega may have been so hesitant to have humans and Mobians coexisting for so long, aside from the stigma surrounding the games and shows that included human characters, and the portrayal of said human characters, but that's another issue, may be due to art style dissonance. I think that if human characters were drawn like the characters from Balan Wonderworld, they'd look a lot less off-putting while standing next to Sonic and his friends. Of course, you'd still have to actually write compelling, likable, and well-rounded human characters, but that's also another story entirely. What do you two think? Here's hoping Sage from Frontiers will do what Mimic is trying to do and open the door for the return of the Overlanders. Wait, Mimic is doing that? What? Is that just a reference to how many fingers he has, or what?
I think they're more implying Mimic being a way of opening the door to more oceanic-based movies.
Okay.
As for what Sage is, it's still too early. There are people who won't be playing yet, so I'm not going to comment on that.
I was going to say, this just seems like a very, very sly way of trying to get a question answered about Frontiers. It almost worked. But almost.
I feel like the human conundrum was already answered in Unleashed.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like that. That art style
the designs by Gorihori. Yeah, everyone in Unleashed looks compatible with Eggman. They look compatible with Sonic's world. Just follow that design.
Yeah, pretty much.
And if anyone like the President or the Commander or Elise shows up again, update the designs to that style. I mean, I don't need an excuse to see more Gorihori designs. Come on.
Nah, I like the Unleashed designs. I think it would work perfectly. All right, and we got one last question here. This one is from Verdragon5. Surge versus Larxene from Kingdom Hearts. Who wins?
Thank you, Internet, because I had no idea who Larxene was.
I did not either. Still don't. Aside from being a very electric-based, very evil person.
Yeah. I'm no expert on her either, but I did watch a couple of boss fight videos to have an idea of what she can do. And as they stand now, I think Larxene might have more anime power than Surge does at her disposal. That multiform technique looks like it's a lot to deal with. But Surge is still growing and learning and getting more capable. So it would be a close fight. At the moment, I'd give it to Larxene, but give Surge some time. I think she'll be able to carve out a victory over time.
There's someone in the chat here saying Larxene has funny hair. I'm like, well, so does Surge, to be fair.
So does the entirety of the Kingdom Hearts cast.
And so does the entirety of the Sonic cast.
Yeah, so...
Yeah, you know.
It's a pot calling another pot black, for pity's sake.
Yeah. Get those pots out of here. Link, come on, clean up those pots. Yeah, let's get out of here.
Before we go, we need to give a big thank you to all the folks over at patreon.com/BumbleKast, Ko-fi.com/BumbleKast, and our YouTube members for supporting this show. Big thank you to Daniel H., James K., Jennifer R., John B., Robotnicum, Sam Cybercat, Samuel P., Torchbound, Mike B., Dave M., Andrew D., Salucha Cat, Coupling Crew 128, Jay Frost, Do As Dizdin, Hero of Light 13, Professor Scruffy Matt, Ryan D., Chris A., Noni, Sonny, Triforce Riku, John M., Jib, Don B., Yami M., Fiona M., Lee H.K., Lisa M., Invade Turbotunis, Ben Wolfsbane, Chauvel, Sonic, Scurvy Pirate Hog, Keeper of Monsters, Axis, Tick Tick, Xanderoni the Painter, Arc Fighter, Jonathan D., The Name is X, Lair Stain, Nemric, Godzilla, Justin S., Quaggle Gaggle, Professor Rye, Alex G.S., Ava Arctic, Cameron H., Dove, Dabbler the Dalek, Sonic Legacy, Just a Mountain Soul, Pedanti Cat, Starlight Sec, Nondle, Red the Supernamic, Twilewood, Chad, Les, Jennifer H., Chaos Sonic 1, The Disgayan, Jolene B., Alpha Monor Yukon, Joshua S., Omega Watt, Dapper Shinks, Preston M., Noah S. of the Stars, Sonic 84, Kojiro Highwind, Awesome Cakester, Supersonic Fan, Red Wreath, Ink Thinks, and Tails, Chaz L., Derucival, Callum Q., Red Wolf, Wild 48, Maddie H., KGB, Miles the Prower, Navarre, Exadel, Agent Kaz, In Zephyr, For Sonic Fan, The Marble Gardener, Rhythm Raccoon, Mox, Chaos Shadow, Mickey Sawdust, Pigdan 20, Ty Cyan, Owen BD, Vlad, Ozgem, Shimmy M, Puppy the Scholar, Curly Quills, Angela V, Michael P, Smiley 21, The Flower Garden, Sammy S, Delta God 77, Sterling Sonic, Jube, Conga, Shakira Law, Rocketman, Windskull, Delonte, Supernova, Indabin, Superior Pizza, Sonic Patch, The Golf, Caswell, Mr. Murderbird, The Giant Murdering Bird, Lacey M, Crucified Demon, Loop D Loop, Omega Man 21, Five, The Children Grow, Learn What's Right, Tetsu Knife, Crowbo, Sonic Mania 2099, Hadronis, Nils, Noob 600, Paley, FMS Draws, Steph Cube, Sonic Bot, Peter M, L Technopata, Miles Browerdy, Buttered Noodles, Frost the Hobbidon, Danny Light, Meta Mode, Wheels 282, Hedgehog, and Jamal S.
That list is fantastic. Still continues
and so are the
to
people
grow.
who are on that list.
Still continues to grow. Yes. Truly amazing.
It's going to wrap us up for now. Be good to yourselves, be good to each other, and we will see you next time on the BumbleKast.
Take care, everybody. Help, computer. Hey, kid,
all
I'm a
right.
computer. Stop all the downloading. Move, Kyle.
All right. Move, Kyle. Kyle, move. Move, Kyle.
Okay. You've been listening to the BumbleKast, a co-production of Bumble King Comics and the KNGI Network. Original theme music composed by Ken Coda Snyder. Remixed intro by T-Lopes. Find out more information, along with podcast feeder links, MP3 downloads, and more at bumbleking.com and kngi.org.
I would ask if you want to take some time off, but we don't have that time. To take off.
Time off of what? Time off of my life? I mean, there's plenty of that is gone. As it is, I'll be lucky if I got another year.
No, don't say that. I need you.
I don't know, man. I don't know.